This is a beautiful story that comes in the Musnad of al-Bazzar. Once a Bedouin came into the gathering of the Prophet ﷺ. Now you guys know all the juiciest stories in Seerah start with the Bedouin walking in. Think of the Bedouins as the cranky uncles of back in the day. Yeah, so the Bedouin walks in and apparently he needs financial aid. So he comes to the Prophet ﷺ and he's like, I need some money. And the Prophet ﷺ, very gracefully, he actually gives him money and stuff. And then the Prophet ﷺ just wants to make sure, as someone who's a good customer service agent, he just wants to make sure he's happy and satisfied. So the Prophet ﷺ said, Ahsantu ilayk. Like, are you satisfied? Have I been good to you? To the shock of the Prophet ﷺ, this Bedouin, to the Prophet's face and then in front of the entire gathering of the companions, he says, La wala ajmalta. He's like, no, you haven't been good to me. You haven't even been fair to me. Ma ajmalta, like ma i'tadalta, like not even moderately good, let alone extra good. And the companions of the Prophet are furious. And they want to beat the living daylights out of him. And they're about to jump on him. And the Prophet فَأَشَارَ إِلَيْهِمْ كُفُّوا. The Prophet pointed to them and said, calm down, stop, relax. And now the Prophet ﷺ, despite being disrespected publicly, he actually goes back inside, brings out additional financial aid, and then gives it to this person. You guys, just a little pause right here, pause of reflection. I don't know if you've ever been disrespected publicly. I don't know if someone actually, I don't know, you're a teacher in class and a student disrespects you, or like, I don't know, you're the uncle in the family and your little nephew disrespects you. I don't know if you've ever been in a situation like that. How do you react? I think I speak for most of us that if someone disrespects you publicly, you want to make an example out of it. Your blood pressure starts to rise. Anger starts to surge, your ego starts to perk up, and you want to do a smackdown. I remember, subhanAllah, this happened to me when I remember leading the Eid prayer once, and I led the Eid prayer in a way which was not according to the 7 takbirat and the 5 takbirat. I did it the Hanafi style, 3-3. And someone thought that I just committed a bid'ah, because they hadn't actually experienced it. And there was a big firestorm inside the masjid, and the brother is like, I gotta redo my prayer. I don't even know if it was accepted. And all the way to the parking lot, to the lobby, this person wanted to make sure everybody heard the blasphemy that had occurred in the front row, And now, I heard all of this, and I'm hearing all the commotion, and I'm thinking to myself, man, I wish we as Muslims could issue excommunicados, silence that person. It's like, dude, I'm the Imam, right? You want to make an example out of someone so no one is emboldened against you. Our Prophet ﷺ, despite being addressed in this manner, and he's the head of the state, and he's the Prophet of God, and he's the judge, and he's got all these hats that he's wearing, our Prophet ﷺ goes inside, brings out additional financial aid, and gives it to this person. And then listen to this. The Prophet ﷺ asks him, have I been good to you now? After giving you additional aid? He's like, finally, he softens up a little bit. He's like, Na'am, فَجَزَاكَ اللَّهُ مِنْ أَهْلٍ وَعَشِيرَةٍ خَيْرًا. May Allah reward you and your family and your tribe. And then the Prophet ﷺ tells him, earlier you said a few things, and my companions weren't very happy. And then listen to this. He says, فَإِنْ أَحْبَبْتَ فَقُلْ بَيْنَ أَيْدِيهِمْ مَا قُلْتُ بَيْنَ يَدَيْهِ. If you like, could you see what you just said to me in front of them? Look at the politeness of the Prophet. He's actually requesting. And he's the head of state. He could have him locked up and, you'll never hear about him. The Prophet was like, if you like, if it's okay with you, can you just say what you just said to me in front of them? Perhaps that will calm their nerves. And he's like, sure. So the next morning, after kind of the storm had quelled of emotions, the Prophet summons this Bedouin in front of everyone. And he says, the Prophet introduces him by saying that this particular person, قَالَ مَا قَالَ, he said a few things, and فَزِدْنَاهُ, and we gave him additional financial aid, and then he told me that he is satisfied. So he turns to the Bedouin, he says, أَكَذَلِكَ, is that the case? Am I telling the truth? The person says, نَعَمْ فَجَزَاكَ اللَّهُ خَيْرًا, and he goes ahead and once again gives that dua to the Prophet ﷺ. And then the Prophet ﷺ turns to his companions. He says, the example of myself and this person, our relationship, the example and analogy that kind of captures this relationship is the example of a person who has a camel which ran away. Now listen to this analogy. My example, in comparison to this Bedouin is like the example of someone who has a camel and the camel runs away. And what happens as the camel is running away, a group of people that know the owner, they start going after the camel so they can chase it down and tie it down. And the camel, when it hears the commotion behind it, it gets away even further. So the owner calls out to everyone, like, guys, stop, stop, stop. I know my camel the best, and I'll be more gentle with the camel than you'll be. So he stops everyone, and then he himself goes after the camel and gently brings it back, has it kneel down, puts a saddle on it, and then sits on it. The Prophet ﷺ said, my example with this Bedouin is like that owner with the camel. I was able to bring him back when you would have scared him away. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And then the Prophet says, had this Bedouin been turned off and rejected and dejected because of our overreaction, and he would have gone away, having disrespected Allah's Messenger, potentially outside of the fold of Islam, and then we further pushed him out, if he would have died in that state, potentially he could have been in hell. Yet the Prophet ﷺ's policy was no ummati left behind. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Every believer needs to be saved, and that is our Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So that's his good manners and actions. I think enough said. Just the personality and the humility of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and to not be easily triggered. Folks, if good manners could be boiled down to one thing, I think we would say to not be easily triggered, to not be easily driven up the wall, to not let someone so easily press your button and then you lose your cool and you lose your composure.